All right, great. I think we can go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Haley and I work at Modern Health. If you haven't joined us at a session so far, we're doing these community support sessions to support our greater community during this really uncertain and challenging time for everyone. If you're interested in additional sessions, you can check out community.modernhealth.com and see what we've got posted for the rest of the week and the weeks to come. A couple of quick things to note. You may have already noticed, but you're automatically muted when you're joined. But we encourage participation. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat feature and we'll bring them up either throughout or at the end of the session. One other quick thing to note is that the content in this webinar is provided for educational purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please contact your healthcare provider for clinical needs and never disregard professional mental health advice or delay seeking it because of something you have heard in this webinar. Great. Well, with that out of the way, I want to introduce our wonderful coach, MicKallyn Elis. She's an ICF certified financial wellness coach, and we're lucky to have her here today to talk about financial confidence in challenging times. So with that, I'll pass it over.
Thank you, Haley. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. I almost have to pause when I say like what day of the week it is to make sure I know, because it kind of is a blur these last 6 weeks. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, as Haley mentioned, my name is MicKallyn Elis. I am the coach and the owner behind The Cash Coach. I am a financial coach, and what a financial coach does is it helps individuals, couples, families, help really navigate through your financial journey. So what we focus on is your learning how to control your money rather than your money controlling you, and helping take the stress out of money. So we talk heavily about what your values are, your why statement, goals, milestones, and of course, a big portion of it is coming up with a plan that will balance out your financial goals with your lifestyle. So again, MicKallyn Elis, please go and check out The Cash Coach if you have any additional questions of what a financial coach does and how it could potentially help you moving forward, especially during these uncertain times. So the agenda today, it's okay to feel discomfort during this unstable market. So there's a reason why we started right there with that sentence, because we want to acknowledge that, yes, these are difficult times. These are lots of uncertainty in regards to our economy, the pandemic, the stock market, our jobs, family. All of our routines that we had in place have a kind of are in shambles. So we're trying to pick up the pieces, come up with a new routine. Some of us are feeling decision fatigue because our routine is a little off kilter at this time. So it is okay to feel discomfort during this unstable, uncertain time. I want to start kicking this off with a fun little, like, go ahead and put it in the chat. Coronavirus made me do it. In 6 words or less, name something positive that the coronavirus made you do. So I'll start it off and then you go ahead and put something in the chat, and maybe Haley can share some of the things that people are sharing. So the coronavirus has made me do 2 things. One, I made, which I think a lot of other people have tried this out, I have made homemade bread for the first time. I don't know if I would have ever done that if it wasn't for this time. And 2, I went on a binge and I cleaned out every single closet and touched every single item in my house and pretty much asked myself, do I need this? Is this necessary? So that is what the coronavirus has made me do. Haley, has the coronavirus made you do anything fun or positive during this time?
I've started doing yoga, which I've always meant to do and never do it because I never feel like I have the time. And I've been doing it every day for at least 10 minutes during shelter.
Nice. Good, good, good. Any comments that anyone wanted to share with that? We have a quiet group. We'll move forward then.
We have a quiet group today, but that's okay. Feel free to use the chat for answering this or any questions that come up throughout the presentation.
Yes, yes, sounds good. All right, so Uncertainty can be scary, and right now many of us are drowning in uncertainty. With so much in the air during this pandemic, you're probably wondering what you can do to feel a little bit more in control of things. As a financial coach, one of the things I do best is help clients prepare for life's whammies, life's what ifs. So in a moment of panic, some of us might be feeling that right now, you're prepared financially to act rationally. I want to share today some ideas, some strategies, some systems that I've been discussing with my clients during this time. Remember, regardless if the coronavirus has impacted you directly or not, these are great strategies and guidelines to take with you out of this webinar. All right, let's kick this off by talking about savings. And this is a huge talking point that every day that I'm talking either in webinars or clients about, and it's incredibly important. So right now is the time to be stockpiling your cash in your emergency fund account. If you don't have an emergency account yet, it's okay. It is never too late to start. Now is the time to get that savings account opened, and every extra dollar that you have should be going into your emergency account. Better yet, if you could start a system where on payday, you at least just start small if this is uncomfortable, putting $25 or $50 into an emergency account. Paying yourself first is a great strategy on starting to fund an emergency account. Those who have an emergency account are already contributing to one. It is never too late, and now is the best time to kind of flex that muscle and increase it, right? Get a little uncomfortable and see if you can increase that savings rate during this time. The first thing to help build that emergency account is to build a plan. Build a system, build a budget, however you want to say it. Now is the time to be building a plan. Building a plan ultimately is going to bring you more confidence within your financial journey. So the basic steps of understanding your plan is to gather your reoccurring or fixed expenses. Gather those, get the amounts of how much every month is going towards these reoccurring fixed expenses. Then look at which of these, if my income were to drop, or if I were to lose my my job at this time, which of these reoccurring fixed expenses can go. Add up how much that is and how much what you're currently have in your savings account or what your current paycheck is, and see what the difference in regards to what your expenses are, your income, and see what that gap is. Now you have to focus on that gap. How much of that gap is going to be allocated towards savings and how much is going to be allocated towards discretionary spending. So this is the first basic step of building a plan, of me going over just a couple strategies in these 2 minutes of here, how to build a plan. If you want to build a robust plan that is a balance between your financial goals or a situation that you're in, or to balance out your lifestyle, please reach out, especially if you're a Modern Health member. You have these free coaching sessions to help build a robust, personalized financial plan. The second step, as I already mentioned, is your reoccurring expenses. Now is the time to look at your subscriptions and see which subscriptions you have. Go through your iTunes account. Sometimes we forget about those $10, $15 ones that are coming in, sneaking through month after month after month, and we're not seeing them. So go ahead and go into your iTunes accounts and see if there's any kind of reoccurring expenses in there. Go to your bank statement or your credit card statement. Go line by line for 2 months and see what reoccurring expenses you have in there, and write down the date that they come out and how much it is. With recurring expenses, your credit cards, if you're having difficulties paying the minimum on your credit cards, or you have, again, a decrease in your pay, your hours have been cut, Now is the time to be calling the credit card companies if you have credit card payments. Don't wait, okay? Now is the time absolutely to do it. One thing that I find with clients who have experienced some sort of financial impact is that financial stress can create shame. The result of shame is oftentimes avoidance. So you're hearing me say, reach out to vendors, reach out to credit card companies. And if you're feeling that stress right now, it is common to feel shame, which then results potentially into avoidance. You don't want the fire to get too big. We want a little flame, and we're going to stomp on that flame right now today by calling vendors if you are feeling any kind of financial stress due to an income drop. Credit card companies are wanting you to reach out. They're helping reduce your monthly payment. Some are temporary, giving a reduction in interest rates. Some are saying they won't any kind of 30-day notice. Maybe you'll have like a 60 days to make up that ground. So reach out and see what options you have with your credit card companies. Student loans, there's been a lot of talk with student loans, and I'm not going to go dive too deep into this, but federally held student loans, so the new CARES Act provides automatic suspension to principal and interest payments on federally held student loans through September 20th, 2020. This is done automatically, and you do not have to apply. The key words on what I'm saying right here is federally held. You can have federal loans that are not federally held. Some federal loans are commercially held, which does not fall under the CARES Act. So you absolutely want to make sure that you have federally held student loans if you are planning on not making these student loan payments. They are automatically being suspended, but I don't want you to misguide yourself on thinking that you have a federally held student loan payment and you don't automatically make these payments because of how it was categorized. So if you're not sure what type of loan you have, reach out and definitely get clarification if you have a federally held student loan and if your loans fall under the CARES Act. For those who don't have the federally held loan and have either federal loans held by commercial financial institutions or private loans, there are options out there. It isn't as straightforward as the federally held ones, but do reach out to your provider and ask for a deferment. And a deferment will allow you to put your payment on hold. So some of the private lenders are giving 30, 60-day deferments where they're pausing your payment. Another option for those who have federal loans that aren't federally held is looking into income replacement plan. So you can reach out to your student loan provider and ask them, hey, my income has decreased. Again, what are my options? Look into the income repayment plan. And what that will do is say, hey, my income has decreased. And you provide some documents, you apply for a new loan, and your monthly payment will actually decrease. And it'll actually stay at that amount even when your income increases and or your hours increase again. Another category to look at for your reoccurring expenses is your utility companies. Again, they are willing and ready for your phone call. Reach out to them and see if they can pause any suspension of disconnection if you are teeter-tottering on your service being disconnected at this time. Some are waiving new late payment fees, and some are actually establishing different payment agreements. And the last little bullet point that I want to talk about when it comes to saving is debt. Surprisingly enough, as a financial coach, I am telling you to pause on your financial goals right now. So if you have been aggressively paying down debt as your financial goal, I'm asking you to pause with aggressively paying down that debt. Of course, keep paying your minimum balance, but right now what we need to do is have a healthy, hearty emergency fund that we are focusing on. Once the dust has settled and we are out of this time, anything extra that you have in your emergency fund account, because you've been stockpiling it at this time, if you feel like you have excess in there at that time, then you can take the money out and put it towards that debt. But I do highly encourage people, if you have any feeling that your hours or your income could be affected by this pandemic that we're in, that pause on making any principal payments towards your debt and put those extra funds into your emergency account for now. 2, stick to your investment plan. Before I go to 2, Haley, is there any questions?
None so far.
Oh, okay. 2, stick to your investment plan. Easier said than done. I understand that. So during the times of uncertainty, it is easy for us to allow our emotions to take over, but this often ends up hurting us in the long term. Remember, this has happened before. We have been in a bear market before. This isn't new. Keep telling yourself that when trying to stick to your investment plan. If your emotions are maybe getting the best of you and you are tempted or looking at taking those funds out of the stock market or your plan at this time. I want to give you a few things to consider, which I hope will help you put a little bit more at ease when participating in the stock market. Historically, the stock market drops at least 20% in value 2 times every decade. So every decade, the stock market drops at least twice by 20% in value. You probably remember the last significant bear market, which was in 2008 during the housing bubble burst. Did you know that 57% over 2 years, the S&P 500 fell? That's huge. That's very significant. And a lot of you maybe are shaking your head. You remember those times. They were definitely scary times. But you might not realize that the following 8 years, after those 2 years of the 57% drop, those following 8 years, the stock market actually tripled in value. So one of the last webinars, we had a participant say that over the last 10 years, he had a 50% return. And in this last 6 weeks, he had a 15% drop. So this was a prime, amazing example that a viewer shared in the comments section of the importance of sticking to your investment plan. I have here on the bottom, bear markets are a fact of our investing lives, but they're still shocking each time. So it's okay to feel like uneasy, questioning yourself if like your plan is right. But do remember, like, bear markets are a fact of our investing lives, and we are investing for the long run. And the last point that my financial advisor said to me that really really stood with me is, you don't realize any of these losses until you actually sell. So these losses that you've maybe experienced in your retirement plan are just on paper at this time. Until you withdraw your funds, then you realize those losses. So I was like, yes, that is a great reminder when potentially looking at your decrease in your portfolio and realizing I haven't really realized any of those losses until I withdraw those funds. I recommend before making any adjustments to your investment plan to consult with your financial advisor for more specific guidance on your investments. I can't stress to you guys enough that really think about your decisions you are making in the short term that can seriously affect you now, but your family in decades to come. The last thing you want to do is make a financial decision out of fear. Any questions on sticking to your investment plan?
None have come up in the chat so far.
Okay. Number 3, look where you are now versus where you started. What this means is it's very easy for all of us to go, hey, 2019, I had a 20% increase rate of return. And now I just lost 15% of that. So look where you are now versus where you started. Instead of looking at the high of what your portfolio was at, look at it where you are now versus where you started. That is more of a fair, accurate statement of what you should be looking at in regards to what your return is versus trying to compare a high versus a low. The best way to respond to risk and uncertainty is to educate yourself. So I want to give you some tools and resources at this time to help with your education when it comes to your financial journey. So I highly encourage everyone, if you are interested in investments or you're, again, flexing your personal finance knowledge, is to every morning take 10-15 minutes on either educating yourself on different jargon that in the financial world or in the investment world, or simply go back and do a bank statement exercise where go back to January 2020, take out your bank statement and highlight how much you spent in restaurants or how much you spent in transportation. One thing that I say to my clients always is know thy numbers, right? So know how much during the pandemic and outside of the pandemic you have been spending on different categories. The more you know your numbers, the easier it is to feel confident in and in control of your finances. So look up some jargon, take 10 to 15 minutes and do like a bank statement exercise. Go back to your last bank statement and see where your funds have went. A lot of us, our groceries have spiked. That's totally okay, but have an understanding how much did you spend in groceries versus how much maybe you spent in takeout, right? Some podcasts that I want to share with you in regards to education with finances is one of my favorites is Afford Anything by Paula Pant. Another fun podcast to consider is Popcorn Finance. Which I like about this one is it's short. So if you're needing a 5-minute break from work, go ahead, open up Popcorn Finance. And what's neat about this is the episodes are only as long as it takes to pop a bag of popcorn. Bag. I'm from North Dakota, bag. And anyone else out there who does that? So that's another fun podcast out there. Another one that I would like to you to look into is Choose FI. So those who are on the financial independence community or journey, great podcast. They really focus on frugality. So if you're looking at different strategies, it's a wonderful podcast to start with. Some books is a must read is The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley. Very popular in the financial coach world. The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robbins. 3 books that if you have extra time during this stay-at-home time, go ahead and see if your library, if you can go ahead and rent those books out virtually, of course. 2 blogs that if you want to, again, continue to educate yourself during this time to help build your confidence with your financial journey is The Penny Hoarder and Get Rich Slowly. Does anyone have any questions in regards to different educational material or resources?
I think we're good to keep moving.
Okay. One thing I do want to say in regards to educating yourself on your financial journey is if you can write this one thing down on this slide is know thy numbers, right? Know how much you bring in each month, know what your expenses are, with what taking the time to understand your numbers is going to build your financial confidence, and that will help make these uncertain times a little bit more easier to navigate through. Tune out financial news and panicky ads. I know I worry, and my anxiety definitely heightens by listening to the news. So a couple strategies is maybe give yourself some rules of, if you're watching TV, there is a lot out there right now, and maybe giving yourself 30 minutes, saying 30 minutes, I'm shutting it off in regards to news in regards to the pandemic or the economy, the stock market. Give yourself a timer so you don't overdo it and heighten your anxiety and fear that you may be experiencing right now. In regards to social media, another suggestion that I have for you guys is to look at the source before you click on the article. So if you don't recognize the source, move on, right? If you recognize it and you feel that's a valid source, then feel free to click on it. But reading material on an unreliable source could, again, just bring additional fear, and we don't know if what we're reading in the material is actually accurate or not, or if it's just more of an opinion. In regards to your fear at this time, I can't stress to you enough by reach out to a friend, a family member, a financial advisor, a financial coach, and just chat with them on what your concerns are. You can state before you start this conversation, you're not necessarily looking for answers, but sometimes just having a conversation on what you are feeling will make you feel better. Additionally, maybe one small statement that your friend makes or family member makes, or even you make, will be that one statement that you need to put your fears a little bit more at ease. So don't feel like you can't have conversations about your fears or anxiety around your finances right now. You are not the only one who is feeling this, so definitely have those conversations with those that you trust. An important thing that I do want to mention on this is you may be experiencing other changes in how you think and feel about your money right now. If you find yourself feeling anxious, what oftentimes will happen when you're feeling anxious during a time where money is maybe tight or changing is your money spending triggers will change. So if you find yourself bored or thinking about the what ifs, and you're scrolling through your phone at that time and you're seeing these ads that are really good right now because everything is on sale, understand those triggers of boredom, fear, anxiety, of why you may be tempted to purchase stuff a little bit more easier now than maybe you did in the past. Trust yourself. The only person you can trust to look out for your best interest, time, and money is you. So sitting around becoming more anxious does not help the situation. I've said it before, but making a plan for your future really will help. The time that you put into it is going to be well worth it. One action step you can take to remind yourself to trust yourself is saying money affirmations, which here on the right, I gave you some examples. Here are some money affirmations you can say to yourself over and over during this time to build up your confidence. They are positive statements. Money affirmations, or it can just be any affirmations, how it works is it's a positive statement that every morning you should be saying to yourself over and over and over again for a couple minutes. There's also an app that's called Think Up, and it's free, and you can record yourself saying these money affirmations or any affirmations, and then it can also notify you or remind you in the morning to do your money affirmations so you don't forget. And you can also in this app hear yourself saying your money affirmation. And again, what these money affirmations are meant to do is a positive statement to help you each morning feel more confident in regards to whatever topic you are needing to build confidence up. So if that's something work, finance, relationship, family, I highly encourage you to look at some affirmations and the app that's free called Think Up. A few action steps that I want to just go over really quickly that we talked about here is one is build your plan, right? We went over that in detail. That's the first action step that everyone should be taking if you don't already have a plan in place. Two, gather and review your recurring expenses and start to negotiate lower rates. Again, if you feel that your job could be impacted during this time, don't wait. Start calling vendors now and see what you can put in place. It's a lot easier now having these conversations than when something actually happens to your pay. Three, pause your financial goals and work to build a 6 months emergency fund. If 6 months seems like a stretch, have a goal of 1 month. Once you hit that milestone, try and hit the 3 months. The goal is 6 months, but again, milestones, 1 month, 2 months. Go ahead and get the charts that nonprofit organizations often have where it's the thermometer that they color in. Go ahead, there's lots of those online to give you that visual aspect of you building your emergency fund. The fourth action step is stick to your investment plan. I know it's a lot easier said than done, as mentioned before, but before you make any kind of adjustment to your plan, I highly encourage you to reach out to your financial advisor or a financial coach, because the last thing we want to do is make any kind of decision out of fear or do a short-term adjustment that could really impact you in the long run. Three, educate yourself when feeling panicked or stressed. Books, podcasts, but most importantly, reviewing your financial plan will help ease the anxiety that you might be feeling with your personal finances at this time. Six, recognize your spending triggers. While anxiety and boredom can get the best of you at this time, realizing those triggers and then putting a plan in place when you see those triggers surfacing will definitely help. And some ideas is before you're going to buy something, say it has to be in your cart for 48 to 72 hours, or before you're going to buy something online, you must go and call somebody for 30 minutes, have a conversation with them, come back to see if you truly need what you're about to spend right now, or are you buying just something out of boredom? And then 7 daily money affirmations to help build your confidence. Finally, I just want to say before I open it up for any questions, if you are worried and anxious, talk with a financial coach about what you can do to create a financial, stable, peace of mind plan. You are worth the time putting in to make this a financial plan for yourself so you can feel confident during this time. Haley, were there any questions there at the last couple slides that I can answer for anyone?
I haven't seen any come through, but if anyone has any, please feel free to use the chat or Q&A feature.
We have a quiet group.
We do have a quiet group today. Well, I think if there's no more questions, yeah, we can wrap up. As a reminder, if you're a Modern Health user, now's a great time to schedule a session with your coach or chat with them as well. If you're not a Modern Health user, you can reach out to your HR team and they can help direct you to the resources you have at your company. Otherwise, feel free to contact Modern Health and check out the rest of our community support series on community.modernhealth.com. Thank you everyone so much for joining us, and thank you so much to MicKallyn.
Thank you everyone, good luck.